Welcome back to the Eric Crown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice macro Sunday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. Nice and bright and sunny outside, and we're going to be talking about some nice and bright and sunny ideas in the future, not in the short term, but in the future. Talking about when is statistically and probabilistically speaking most likely for Bitcoin to perhaps put in a major bottom before a nice big rally, maybe even a macro bottom, and go onwards and forwards from there. In the more immediate term, check out yesterday's video, as that's going to be more relevant to that, to those notions. And yes, still downside pressure. However, we're going to fit the puzzle pieces into this video and perhaps put it all together in another video to come. Anyways, with that said, let's just jump into it right now, waste no more time, and let's get right into it right on over here. Starting off with one of the major indicators that I've really been focusing on for a long time now. It was one of the major indications last year, by the way, that let us know that, hey, Bitcoin was about to go on a major tear after the July bear trap that we did see back on over here at about 30,000 bucks. And that is the hash ribbons indicator. I've been receiving an incessant amount of messages about this. I'm aware that it is printing a blue buy signal, but let's first explain what that essentially means. So there's two components of this indicator that you need to be aware of. First and foremost, it is the capitulation phase, as you can see right here. So it's very faint in the background, but you can maybe see it a little bit better right there. That then gets resolved by a buy signal. And this essentially represents the pressure that miners are feeling. That's not necessarily like the best explanation of this, but it's a working explanation without going deeper into it. So in this case, just so you can see like the last few results, when we get a capitulation signal like you see back on over here, that typically precedes a major massive drop, of which we got it over here in April of 2021, and that led Bitcoin all the way down from about 55 to 60,000 bucks down to about 30,000 bucks, which then was resolved by a buy signal, which you see in the blueprint right here. So the reason why this is relevant, or why I'm calling this out right now, is because one, we're getting a blue buy signature, as you can see on this indicator, and then two, once that blue buy signal has been printed, as you can see right here, for example, let me actually get this properly on there. There we go. Lovely. Once it actually gets printed, what has been observed in the past is that the low prior to that blue buy signal getting printed, which was literally right here. So you can see that this was the last major daily low. Buy signal gets printed a little bit after that. Then Bitcoin typically goes on a nice tear. And in many cases, it has operated as a macro low. In fact, more often than not, it has. In this past iteration, it did not. So this is not infallible. This is we're talking about statistics, not certainties, obviously. But in this case, it did still produce a nice move to the upside. Almost immediately in the next 34 days, 42.61% to the upside. And then, of course, Bitcoin did play out a major correction from there and then went on to our current all-time highs right around 69,420. Great number, of course. Anyways, these results are very consistent with the past, actually. And what I did here is I did a statistical analysis on one, how long it takes from the actual capitulation signal to the next blue buy signal. That was revealed over here. That was 61 days, which we showed, and I was kind of being a little more vocal about last month, or at least a couple weeks ago. And what do you know? This one's actually taken about 71 days right there. Definitely a little bit on the upper end of that average, obviously, but definitely within reason, at least in my opinion. It's very reasonable as far as that goes. Now, as far as the other stats that we're interested in looking at, one, I want to see first how big that first major move is before the first major correction. So in this case, you can see over here, boom, big move up, highs found, big major correction after that, which doesn't look like much on this screen, but it is about 25% move to the downside, almost, over the course of a couple of weeks. So I would say that's rather violent. And then I'm also interested in looking at the amount of days taken between that last major low and the next major high. Again, things can continue onwards and forwards from there, but I don't want to be treating this, as I have looked at it in the past, as a better signal of a macro low, because we did see this last one fail, and we have seen one other one in the past fail as well. So it's not perfect. Pretty fucking good, but not perfect. Again, talking about statistics, not certainties in this case. So what are we looking at right now? Well, I've gone ahead and back tested the whole goddamn thing, going all the way to the genesis of Bitcoin. There was one result over here which was omitted because the percentage gain to the upside before the first major correction was like, it was too much. It was like 1100%, which is insane, and that's just not consistent with the rest of the data. But ultimately, what I found was after that blue buy signal is printed, the average move before first correction was about 60. Okay, stop that. Hold on. Let me just My OCD is like getting out of control right now. Let me bring it down like there. The average move before the first correction was 62.07%. So that to me was rather interesting. Again, this is an average, but even on the lowest end, the lowest, least impressive move off of that buy signature was about 39.19 in this case. And the average days taken till the next major high was just under 42 days. So just over about a month and a week or so, or a couple weeks right there, somewhere around there. Anyways, as of right now, we have seen the blue buy signal on the current, I guess this happened like yesterday. Yeah, the 20th or 19th, something like that. Happened really soon, really recently. And so we do have that in place. So what does that imply? Well, that implies that if we're going to run off of the past data for this, then we'd be treating our last major low, which was right in over here at about 17,500 or so, as unlikely to get violated before Bitcoin does try another major move to the upside. Keep in mind that unlikely to get violated does not mean that Bitcoin can't come down close to it. It can very easily come down close to it. And as we've been saying on this channel, there are several signals that do suggest that Bitcoin does trade a little bit lower here in the short term. So as long as Bitcoin doesn't essentially close below those lows, then this essentially is intact. So that would be 17,500. That means, again, Bitcoin can very easily come down to $19,000 and still maintain that over the long term. In this case, I would also be saying that if we're gonna, be operating off of this low right here, what would the average move look like basically from, let's say, 19,000 bucks, because that's kind of where I'd be looking at myself. Well, average move of 62% or so would put Bitcoin, very interestingly enough, right around one of our last major highs at the $31,000 to $32,000 region right here, which I thought was rather interesting just because that would be a great fucking place for a real bear market rally to get stifled at. Just personal opinion, of course. And also natural, natural basing point as well for Bitcoin to get pushed back on if we do indeed see that move. And the average days taken, well, of course, we don't have... actually, no, we do have, we do have that now in place. So that would be as soon as, like, let's say October, basically. Again, keeping in mind that this is an average. We have seen some iterations that, take up to, 60 plus days, right? Or even in one case, 106 days right there. That one's a bit of an outlier, I would say, but ultimately, it can take more. And I expect that this one probably will take more, to be fair. The lowest move off of the lows was 39.19%. So again, if we take that from about 19,000, I'm just curious where that would put Bitcoin. That would put Bitcoin a little bit higher than our current high. Still would be a macro lower high, which would be really nasty. That would be 26,500. Keep in mind though, out of all the iterations, of which I believe there were certainly in the double digits, 2 of them were not macro lows. So, take that as you will. I don't need to put any more color on that statement. It is what it is. It doesn't mean that it's, again, going to happen exactly in that way, but probabilities, interesting, I would say. Anyway, so let's match that up with this chart over here. Another chart that I've really been harping on for a long time and will continue to harp on until it stops working. And that is the accumulation distribution indicator, as you can see on this pane right here. And the reason why I'm bringing this up right now is because we do have a small indication here that we are getting closer and closer to that low. So here's the thing, and here's what you need to know about this indicator, or what I would say is most interesting about this indicator, although there's probably many things to know, of course. But we have never, ever, not ever once seen ever a major macro low on Bitcoin price action, like a cycle low I'm talking about, without the accumulation distribution indicator hitting the green horizontal bar that my cursor is currently on right now. Can match these up with all of these major areas, and you can see very clearly and quickly that yes, that is basically around that area, with to a degree of like a month or a month and a half, basically. In this case over here, the reason why I'm bringing this one out is because coming into September and definitely October, I shouldn't say definitely, but extremely likely by no later than October, we will see this area hit with this indicator. And that would also be another good indication that, Bitcoin's a lot closer to putting in a major macro low than not. In this case, the question is, how far does Bitcoin get down before that level gets hit? That could be obviously where we're currently at right now, basically 17.5 to 19,000 bucks, Or if we take the average correction from when the indicator itself, in this case, turns red. So for example, when it turns red over here, that area measured to the next major macro low right here, the average correction from those times has been found to be about 61.34%, which if we were to apply to the current area right here, when it turned red, which was in May, would put Bitcoin somewhere down as low as maybe $15,500, which is also interesting because that is, of course, one of the major macro fibs here. You can see the 0.5 coming in, somewhere reasonably close to that region. So I do like the confluence there, of course, as well. Anyways, again, September, does it hit this region? Probably yes. October, does it hit this region? Very, very likely yes. November, no later than November. It'd really take a crazy. We'd be seeing some crazy shit if it doesn't hit by November. So I do think September, October more reasonable, probably more like October, which I also think is interesting for the next chart that I'm about to show you. But again, this would kind of suggest that within the context of this chart over here, we're probably looking around that time. 40 days would put Bitcoin around October-ish, if you will. And then taking that one step further, we can go over to this chart over here. This is a quarterly chart. So again, very, very long-term price action. But, and to be fair, the quarterly does not have that much history, not even enough to populate a fucking 55 exponential moving average, for example. But what I do think is interesting about this chart is that there will naturally be potential for hidden bullish divergence, which I guess I already have in here. And by the way, that is actually how the 2018 bear market bottomed out right here. But it would have a potential for hidden bullish divergence of 1, 2, 3 strike drives coming into October, which this one gets its next closure on. And in that case, we would have lower lows on the quarterly RSI, but higher lows, obviously, on price action, assuming that, it puts in a low somewhere right around there. And that would be good enough, probably at least for a major rally. Maybe not for a macro bottom. I would still hold off on saying anything more aggressive like that, but at least a major rally would probably be good enough for that. So again, that could potentially be confirmed as soon as October. The counterpoint to this is, or it's not necessarily a counterpoint, it's not confirmed right now. What would be what would unconfirm it is if, let's say, Bitcoin shoots down through the current lows and closes by October, end of September, early October, like end of September going into October, basically. Basically like well below our current lows. If something like that happens, you're not gonna have the divergence there. It's gonna shoot right on fucking through. It's what's very likely gonna happen. But hey, keep in mind, again, when this closes, again, it's gonna be the 1st of October. So with all of that in mind, that kind of fits into the puzzle piece over here with the timing of this, and then also with the timing of this, which I thought was rather interesting. So I do think best case scenario, we do see a low in this market sometime around, that time frame. Again, there can be some wick fishing lower, but ultimately would not want to see closures, below our current major lows on a wick basis, which is 17.5 or so on spot price action. So what does this all mean? Well, this all means that, fiscally speaking, that's probably best case scenario as far as I'm concerned right now. But here's the thing. Even if Bitcoin does put on a low around that region, it does not imply that it's just going to go fucking green dildo to the moons right after that. In fact, it's probably not likely to do that. What it's likely to do is something like it has done in the past, where, you see a long accumulation, or actually this chart's going to be better for this particular demonstration. You see a long form sideways accumulation after these major lows are hit. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 5 months. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, come off the lows. In this case, also about 4 to 5 months as well. And the only one that was not that long was, of course, the Rona dump over here. But even that one still has, you kind of were going sideways for about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months anyways after that, before really getting going, in this case, with a momentous move to the upside. So with all of that in mind, I think that's a good place to leave off on this video. There's maybe one more thing that I could bring out to kind of corroborate this story, which might as well do it while we're here for thoroughness sake. Again, keeping in mind that all this is very, very long-term price analysis. Let's go over to the monthly. Just looking at the monthly stochastic momentum oscillator, you can see that we have never seen, Bitcoin has never seen a macro low without getting into the weeds on this green horizontal bar region that I'm currently hovering in right now. These are all the macro lows in the past. And by the way, coming into September, Bitcoin will hit that region, perhaps by October, it'll start to curl around that region. If we get all of those signals in concert with each other, probably going to be a good indication that at minimum, Bitcoin has a major rally in store. At worst, at best, maybe at a macro low, but I will hold off on making any more statements other than that. I think it's a good place to wrap up this video. I want to let you know about my Instagram. I've been posting a lot of content there, both trading and non-trading related, which there is a link in the description below. And then also Bybit is offering 50% off of their options products for fees. That is, if you use the link in the description below as well. And then you got Funded Futures Traders, which is offering up to $250,000 in account funding if you can prove to them that you actually know what the fuck you're doing and can be profitable under their rules. All right, sweet. That's enough for that. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.